The Call of Duty Direct event happened on Sunday, and it provided a ton of information about the Black Ops 6 story, including details about characters, locations, and missions in Black Ops 6. The event itself revealed new locations and familiar mission settings, as well as telling us about a mysterious organization that seems to be controlling everything from the shadows. So let's take a closer look at what we learned from the Black Ops 6 Direct event. So first off, the Black Ops 6 campaign is set against the backdrop of the early 90s. The Soviet Union was collapsing. The first Gulf War was in full swing. The American people began to distrust their government, and Metallica, the greatest rock band ever, ruled the world. Now, Black Ops 6 itself is a spy thriller where a mysterious shadow organization named Pantheon has taken control of the CIA and other high-level agencies across the United States. However, remaining in the shadows, not revealing themselves, was some type of plan to detonate a weapon of mass destruction in DC. Now, I can't tell you a lot more details on this until after you hear about all the missions, so before we even go into that, let's dive into the characters that we know are coming in Black Ops 6. First off, we know our enemies are Pantheon, but within the CIA, because they control so many strings, they send a specific group after you to hunt you, the Crimson 1 team. Now, they're not necessarily bad guys or good guys, they're just following orders, which is something the Germans said in World War II. But regardless, let's take a look at our allies in Black Ops 6. Now, first off, the man running the plays, coordinating the attacks, and informing you from the headquarters is, in fact, Frank Woods. Now wheelchair-bound after Ramon Menendez kneecapped him in Panama 2 years earlier, Woods has been struggling to find his new role as he has been taken out of the field. Luckily, he has a protege, a man by the name of Troy Marshall, a CIA operator trained by Woods himself to take Woods' place in the field. Where Woods controls the mission planning and logistics and kind of controls everything from the headquarters, Marshall runs the field operations, reacting with calm, calculated precision to the ever-changing conflict before him, making the right calls at the right moments, like you should do right now and like the video, because it really helps out my channel a lot. But anyways, Troy Marshall is kind of the second in command to this squad. He reports directly to Woods, Woods calls the shots, but the third in command is the character you actually play as. The third person in charge of this kind of disavowed CIA squad is named Case. He is the main character you play as in Black Ops 6. However, Call of Duty has kept all of their information about Case close to their chest. They don't want us to know anything. But we do have some information. First off, he is a white Caucasian male, somewhere in the military age of 25 to 35, and he works very closely with Troy Marshall. Now, Troy Marshall is the one calling the operations in the field. He's making decisions for everybody. However, he heavily relies on Case's input as those two work very closely together. Now, not much else is known about our character Case, but it appears via this dream sequence we have in the Black Ops 6 trailer that he has some ties to the MK Ultra project. That's a separate story I'm talking about tomorrow, but anyways, we also have two more people on your team. You have a Russian hacker who, after the fall of the Soviet Union, joined the CIA to help out, and he gets disavowed with the Troy Marshall, Case, and Frank Woods. And then we have this assassin of unknown origin. She's kind of like a blacklisted character. There's not much information known about her, but she works very closely with Troy Marshall and Case throughout all of the campaign. And while these two characters specifically are not important to the plot, the character who is the most important to the plot is in fact Russell Adler. Now, Russell Adler is kind of not necessarily the main character of the game, but he drives the narrative throughout all of Black Ops 6. At the beginning of the Black Ops 6 campaign, Russell Adler is running operations for the CIA in the first Gulf War. Now, these operations are separate of Frank Woods and Troy Marshall and Case, but he is nonetheless running operations in the Gulf War. And something happens here. He gets disavowed. He gets burned by the CIA due to his discovery of the shadow organization known as Pantheon. Pantheon pulls every string they have to make Adler look like a war criminal. Adler looks like he's working with terrorist organizations, working with the Iraqis, and he's killing American troops in the process. So they create a wanted poster for him, saying he is wanted alive, interestingly enough. But we know that he's kind of comes along later in the campaign and has a bunch of information for us. Now, let's talk about what's actually going on in the first Gulf War, the missions that you actually play as in the first Gulf War with your character Case. So the first mission that we know about in the Black Ops 6 campaign is actually the second mission in the game, a open world level set in the first Gulf War, which sees Case and Marshall hunting down high value targets in the Middle East alongside a SAS deployment team, which may or may not include Captain Price or Captain McMillan, because it kind of lines up for either one of these two to be in the campaign. Regardless, the mission sees a team hunting down 3 main objectives, as well as some options for some side objectives. The first objective sees the team working alongside an Iraqi soldier who turned to the CIA named Alawi. He is actually kind of informing you about where these objectives are. So your first objective is to go destroy a Scud missile launcher. Now, Scud missiles were missiles launched by the Iraqis at American bases and different things like that. They were really kind of inaccurate, but they had a big explosive payload. So if they did hit their target, they would have wiped out a lot of people very, very quickly. Based on the footage we see, it appears that the Scud launcher the Iraqis are using is being rolled in and out of a cave in order to protect it from actually being destroyed. Now, your entire job with this is to work with the SAS to destroy the Scud launcher. Now, the second objective that we see in the game is something we don't actually have that much information on. The second objective in this kind of Iraq Gulf War mission is for you to actually go to a satellite dish that's kind of half buried in the sand for some specific reason. We don't know any more context on it, but I'll continue to give you information when I find it out. Now, the third objective of this mission sees you and the SAS team of coalition forces attacking one of Saddam's palaces, and with some specific coordinates that we've got from the past couple weeks. Now, this specifically is a palace that has a giant statue of Saddam Hussein, which you end up blowing up, and it turns into a full firefight. But in Saddam's palace, this is where you actually learn about the group named Pantheon. And after you learn about the group named Pantheon and you bring it up back to your CIA command, you get disavowed. The entire team gets burned. And this is where the story kind of gets interesting, because the next mission we see is a casino heist in a European casino. The casino houses a large vault with sensitive information pertaining to the First Gulf War, Saddam Hussein, and the mysterious group Pantheon. The mission sees you helping Marshall steal a keycard, which opens the secure level of the elevator, where the vault itself is stored, and at some point in this mission, it appears you are actually interrogated by some unknown person who attempts to beat the truth out of you. However, what's more interesting is what happens after the mission. After the mission is over, you go to a former KGB safe house that was deactivated in 1963. Now, this safe house is pretty interesting because in charge of the safe house is actually Woods. Woods has kind of converted this into a safe haven for your team as they've been disavowed and burned by the CIA. However, we really don't know where the safe house is actually at. We just know it's a Eastern European safe house, and it appears that when you actually search the safe house, you'll find new story hints and context clues about what was going on in Black Ops 1 and how it ties into Black Ops 1. So something that's definitely worth looking around when you actually get to your safe house for the very first time. But the most important thing at the safe house is himself, Frank Woods. You kind of get to talk to him and see what's going on, because he actually confirms that Alex Mason is dead and that he put a bullet through Alex Mason's head, kind of putting the canon story to Black Ops 2 to rest, which is kind of unfortunate because I personally like the ending where he lived, but Call of Duty has basically told us it's canon that Alex Mason gets shot in the head in 1989 in Panama. Regardless, the next mission that we go into kind of is a rolling mission here. After you're at the safe house, you learn that Russell Adler may be the only person to help you, and it is discovered that Russell Adler is yet alive and, as a matter of fact, being held in an underground CIA black site under a notable building in downtown DC. Now, this is when Woods and Marshall decide the best time to break out Adler is in the next few days, as Governor Clinton is holding a fundraiser for his presidential campaign at the exact building where the black site is housed. Under the guise of police, Marshall and Case break into the facility named Midnight Black Site, a possible reference to Project Midnight, an MK Ultra mind-washing program, to discover that someone else has actually beat you to the punch and has already killed everyone inside the CIA black site. However, they are still here as you hear gunshots alerting you to their presence. After a bit of stealth and then a bit of an action firefight, Case and Marshall discover the interrogation room where Adler is being held. But upon busting inside, you see that Adler actually has the situation under control, and he has taken one of these unknown soldiers hostage. And after a quick conversation, Case, Adler, and Marshall start to make their way to the exit elevator, where they run across a Juggernaut coming down the exact elevator they need to use to escape. So after killing this Juggernaut, they learn that the elevator is stuck, and they use a center cable to climb the ropes of the shaft, only to find that Pantheon is up there throwing grenades at the team as they ascend. A quick fight later, and Adler, Marshall, and Case are stealing motorcycles in order to escape the building, now surrounded by police. This actually starts a very, very long kind of motorcycle chase through DC. Ultimately, though, the team escapes and is picked up by a helicopter. But as nothing is ever easy, the helicopter begins being pursued by other enemy helis, leading to a fight between helicopters where you're trying to shoot out the pilot and ultimately crashing the enemy heli into a building before your own heli is forced to dodge a missile, which then yeets Case out of the helicopter, throwing him off of a rope hanging down from the side. Now, this rope is about 40 feet long and you're hanging from the helicopter, but before you can even get a chance to start climbing back up, the helicopter rope runs into a crane. So Case cuts himself loose and starts running across the roof to get to the helicopter as other enemy helicopters start blowing up the building that Case is on in order to stop him from escaping. Luckily, though, we kind of see that he makes it, and this kind of wraps up the mission as this team gets out of there and returns back to the safe house. Now, the only other mission that we have confirmed is a mission returning to the coldest, meanest Siberian prison around, the Vorkuta prison complex. Now, for some reason, Adler tells you need to go to this prison complex. There's something there that y'all need to find out to discover who's leading Pantheon and how to stop them. This sees you and your team returning to the Vorkuta prison complex. Long abandoned and just a shell of its former self, it has been taken over by the Pantheon group as they were looking for something specific within the prison, likely to pertaining to the brainwashing that was done to Alex Mason in Black Ops 1. Now, we can't really give you any more details about this mission because we frankly don't know them, but it appears that there's a bunch of stuff going on with Pantheon where they're trying to brainwash people. There's a lot of ties to the MK Ultra program, which like I said earlier is a video I'm working on for tomorrow, but I saved the best for last. Ultimately, the most important thing to discuss before you leave this video today is what is Pantheon's goal? Well, Call of Duty has gone as far as to tell us Pantheon is building a weapon of mass destruction. And based on what we see in the trailer, this weapon appears to have a biological component and is aimed to be used in DC and around the world simultaneously, so Pantheon can take control of the United States government. Now, if you want to know everything that was covered at the Call of Duty Direct event for Black Ops 6, then you'll want to click on this video right here because it tells you everything you need to know. And until next time, I am Icebergs, your Call of Duty informant. Stay frosty.